everyone, and welcome to UJS's first. Hi everyone, and welcome to UJS UK's first podcast of the year. So I'm Jodie, and I'm here with Daniel, Nina, and Faye. So how's everyone doing? Faye, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Great. Nina?
Yeah, doing well, thank you.
And Dan?
Yeah, I'm all good as well, thanks.
Awesome. Great. So we would like to make this podcast to mark the World Mental Health Day that's coming up on this coming Sunday. Here at the office, we've been thinking quite a lot about COVID over the past year and a half, 2 years or so, and how we've all been doing both, emotionally, both as a team and personally. So we'd like to take this opportunity now to just have a chat about our mental health and well-being during COVID. So I know for me, things went so quickly from being completely normal and a functioning world in March 2020 to just a sudden lockdown, literally in the course of a couple of days, and that was quite overwhelming and made me feel quite anxious. Can any of you guys relate to that?
Absolutely. I guess I'll go first. I think it was quite an intense thing for me, lockdown. I was used to sort of a social environment where I'd be out of the house most of the time, and having that being reversed was quite intense. I think I just was pushing through it quite stoically initially, just sort of, doing jigsaw puzzles and moving through things and just not really thinking too much about it. And then when the first lockdown eased, I went away with some of my friends and we managed to sort of get out of the house and sort of have just sort of be out a bit. And I didn't realise until that point how numb I'd actually been feeling the entire time in lockdown. And I saw we had like a bit of like a sofa, like a sharing space, so we were talking to each other and sort of admitting how we've been feeling. And I just sort of admitted that I was like, I've just been feeling so numb lately. And when I said that, I was crying like crazy. It was quite an intense thing. It was sort of like a watershed moment. And then I realised that actually the whole thing, I wasn't like fine with it. It was actually really intense and I was struggling quite a lot.
Yeah, I think for me, right at the beginning, there was this novelty, like when Facebook and Instagram went down the other day. Right at the beginning, everyone was like, oh, this is so exciting. We get a break. We get to, not just be on our phones all day. And it was sort of the same right at the start of lockdown. We were like, oh, this is really exciting. Get a break from university, get to hang out with family and do things that we wouldn't normally have the time to do. But very quickly, it became this more longer slog, which made me feel quite despondent and low quite a lot of the time.
I think it was also hard being a university student in that time because my parents and my brother were all working from home, so they had lots to fill their days with, whereas I was just sitting there writing my one essay that I had for the whole summer and just really trying to find something to do with myself. And I think the lack of kind of mental stimulation was what I found hardest, because you just kind of get in a slump, like Daniel was saying, and I just ended up sleeping all day, going for walks, and I really just felt like I became a completely different person.
I was quite okay at the beginning of lockdown. Was lovely to spend more time with my family, come back from uni, and quite enjoyed that period. And it was more for me going back to uni and that sudden change from being at home with my family for so long, and then going back and having to adjust again to another time during this year. That's what I found the most difficult, and when my anxiety levels definitely increased. And again, having that pressure of work at university in third year as well, that pressure of work together with COVID was really where I was anxious and stressed.
Yeah, I think that's quite a shared feeling amongst a lot of us, is that, the constant change of rules and regulations as to what we could and couldn't do, whilst often there was a national feeling of, joy when restrictions were lifted. Often, personally, we felt quite overwhelmed and the adjustment was quite difficult, having spent so long, at home only with family or seeing close friends for walks, and suddenly being back out in the world and seeing a lot more people. I know that made me feel quite overwhelmed, especially at the beginning, the first time I was in a large crowd or seeing, a lot of my friends that I hadn't seen in a long time. Whilst that was lovely, sometimes it felt like a little bit much.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. like lockdown was hard in some ways, but also really nice. It felt like kind of going back to being a child, being in like the protection and security of your family home. And then when that ended and I suddenly went back to uni, I really personally struggled with kind of being away from my family, being with these people that I used to be friendly with and used to spend a lot of time with, but it felt like our relationships had changed quite a lot, especially for me in my personal relationships. Like I had a boyfriend that I was very happy with at the time, but the 5 months apart, I think really took a toll, and I found it really difficult to get back to that happy place that I had been in before, because I just wasn't anticipating this 5 months of distance from all these people.
It was almost like, how do we socialise again? How do we be in a room of people again? We were all so used to that at uni before lockdown, and then suddenly going back, it was like, what? How do we do this?
Yeah, I've always been like quite bad with handshakes. Because when you meet someone, you have to shake their hand. It's like sometimes judging that vibe is always a bit of a challenge for me. And then coming back after lockdown, it's like there's an additional element which is like, are we shaking hands at all? Are we not? So for me, it's very frustrating. I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah, like the elbow touching, I think is really awkward. I really hate that.
And I hate to be the person leaning into the elbow touch.
Yeah.
Let's go straight for the elbow touch. It's like, all right, not really for me.
Yeah, and I think it's been really interesting, like for us as SABs to return to campuses and see how students, how you guys are being able to relate to other people, having spent so long kind of either learning from home or being a fresher and coming straight from home anyway. I've had quite a lot of students tell me that they're struggling to socialise, and I think that's a completely normal and shared feeling, that after being at home for so long and only being around people that you're extremely comfortable with, being family and close friends, suddenly to meet all these new people and to make friends, course friends, Jewish friends, uni friends in general, it can be really difficult. So I think it's important to remember that if you are feeling like that, you're not alone in that.
Yeah, I was in a club for the first time the other day in however many years, and it was just crazy. Like I haven't been in a room surrounded by that many people so close to me in such a long time, and like that did make me feel quite anxious. And I completely understand why some people maybe aren't comfortable to go back to that. Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah, I personally don't feel ready to like be in a club environment, but like slowly taking a step forwards to like see more people and be in a room with a lot more people. Just because I think now like I want to be able to live life, and it's like having that line between still worrying about like my family and going back to them, but also living my life as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think something else that is important to bring up is that now that lockdown has eased, a lot of people are reflecting on COVID, and we've had quite a lot of people say what they've gained from COVID and how positive it was and how they picked up new skills and found new appreciation for things around them. And whilst I think that is a really important part of it, it's made me feel a bit like, not that I wasted my time during COVID, but that the fact that I was struggling wasn't a shared feeling and wasn't something that other people were going through, because sometimes it seems like everyone around you gained so much from COVID and picked up all of these new things. When I did take up some new skills, and I did find a new appreciation of nature, my family and the people that were around me at the time. But I also think there were quite a lot of days that I wasn't feeling up to doing those new and exciting things, and just dwelling in, the craziness of the world around me was about as much as I could handle.
I did feel like there was definitely like, when people talk about lockdown, there's this kind of like subtle competition to who had the best lockdown.
Yeah.
It's like who learned the most things, who grew the most as a person, and like it is a kind of like, we should just accept that this was kind of a really rubbish thing, and if you just came out of it okay, or not even okay, but just came out of it, that's good enough in itself. You don't have to have gone on some massive personal development journey. I mean, like all the only real major changes I feel like happened is I already had like an art account on my Instagram where I would sort of do doodles, and I retreated a bit more into that. Like I made it a bit more of a project, and I think just because when you spend time doing a lot of like one type of art, you improve at it slightly. I've improved at it slightly, but I wouldn't be like, haha, worthwhile, put me down again.
Yeah.
I don't want it. So I think, there's no pressure to be like, to have had the best lockdown. It was really rubbish, and that's fine too.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I could say I got out of lockdown was to mental health diagnoses that I didn't have previously.
When you are now the UJS president.
I am now the UJS president. That wasn't directly out of lockdown though, but there's a lot of negative things that came out of it. That's kind of why we wanted to do this podcast, to show people, like, yeah, everyone brushes over lockdown now, it's so great, we're all back in the real world, but we should acknowledge the thing we all went through, because it probably was quite traumatic for a lot of people, and it was a difficult thing to handle. But yeah, speaking of jobs, like, we're all now in full-time employment. We all came at the beginning of the pandemic, we were in second year, had our studies disrupted, and now we're all working, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been quite a transition into, you know, uni life, especially because it was COVID. You know, none of us were really going into university, so it was really working from home and quite self-directed study. And that also, I personally found there wasn't so much to do in terms of final year. You know, once you've done your couple of essays and couple of exams, that was really all it was. And suddenly being, you know, thrown into the world, and our job, you know, maybe you've seen us around, involves quite a lot of travel all up and down the UK. Visiting campuses and meeting students, meeting you guys, and that's been quite intense and quite crazy. You know, the one thing that's been so restricted during the whole of COVID is travel, is movement, and the fact that between us we've probably been to 30-40 places in the last month is crazy when you think about it.
And it was such a quick adjustment, literally from being in our rooms writing essays for a year to suddenly travelling around the whole country, which has been great, but also a very quick and big adjustment in our lives.
Yeah, I got stuck in Rome a few weeks ago. That wasn't very fun. So there are some negatives to travelling as well. The new COVID restrictions mean that it is sometimes quite a challenge to travel. So everyone make sure you get your PCR test in advance, otherwise you will end up stranded in Rome for an extra night.
I've got a whole cupboard full of lateral flows.
Yeah.
Laterally flowing all over the place.
Nice.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I like the that. I don't like that I was locked down now I'm travelling, but I really am appreciating just being in all these different places and travelling all the time because I was so locked down. I think I'm looking at all the cities and I'm like, wow, what a beautiful city. I'm appreciating it. Durham is especially pretty.
Yeah.
Exeter. Actually, this
Keele.
I liked Keele. I thought Keele was a nice university, and I thought the Jewish students that I met there were also very lovely. I don't know if I'd choose to live in Stoke-on-Trent
That's
myself.
fair enough.
But you know, it's cool to sort of see them all and have a perspective on these things, and sort of appreciate that I get to go and travel to all these cool places, and now that's part of my job, and I think that's really cool. I'm happy about it.
Yeah, so I guess looking forward, maybe if we could all share one or two things that we're really looking forward to now that, you know, lockdown has eased and COVID restrictions are, you know, mostly lifted. What's something that we're looking forward to getting back in our lives?
It's a tough one. Sometimes it's hard to sort of quite put your finger on the things that we've lost, and then so when we get them back again, it's kind of like, oh wait, I forgot we lost that thing. So I know, like, it always sort of, to me, clubbing. I never actually liked clubbing that much. I would call it a 50% success rate, enjoyable evening.
What were you classing as a success rate?
No, not like that. Just kind of like whether I actually had fun or not, or whether I sort of left and was like miserable listening to Smith songs. But I would say like half the time I would be like, wow, I actually had fun tonight. But clubbing for me was kind of like the benchmark. I felt like once clubs were open again, that would sort of be the marker that it was sort of all over. But even now they are, I still feel like that benchmark isn't quite met, because you know, there's still just kind of a social attitude of now, like, we are changed. Like, we wear masks in public, and you know, having handshakes with people is now like a much more awkward affair, and sometimes like spaces are have chair separations, and there's every space you enter kind of has its own lockdown conscious vibe that you kind of have to acclimatise to, like how distanced, how sort of aware of it do you have to act in each space. And I think that's, I don't know if it'll never go away, but it's definitely it's here, and it's not going to just sort of disappear when clubs reopen. And it didn't disappear when clubs reopened. So for me, that's kind of like, there was no one one thing that says it's now over and we can now just get back on with life as before. Life has kind of changed. Things are different now, and just kind of have to sort of incorporate that and accept it, and I guess push through it, and maybe you can get some positive things out of it. And we're probably like a healthier society for our like cleanliness rules now.
Probably, yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
Everyone washes their hands a lot more now, which
Yeah.
is a good thing.
I wash my hands now.
I think for me, like something that I've really found to appreciate more is being really exhausted from a busy day. I think over the past couple of weeks we've all been travelling, and I'm sure I speak for all of us when we say that we're quite tired when we get back from, you know, being in Oxford or Kiel or Newcastle during the day. But during the lockdowns I was quite exhausted, but just from doing nothing. And I really appreciated getting into bed and feeling like I've had, you know, a really productive day, or even just a really busy day, and being kind of good tired, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I relate to that. I'm a big napper, as you guys know. I love to have a nap. And over lockdown, I was just napping for maybe 4 hours a day with no real reason. But now I feel like I earn my naps. So when on the weekend, I think, oh, I actually have 2 days off work, I will give myself a nice 2-3 hour nap, and it feels more deserved this time round.
Yeah, when we first started working, I remember saying to you guys that I wasn't even doing that much, but I just felt so exhausted, and it was just being out of the house, talking to people and socialising was just really exhausting, because we hadn't done that in such a long time.
Yeah.
Like a new rhythm.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd say the thing I was most excited for, which I'm glad is now happening again, is it's a bit might sound a bit sad, but just being able to hug my grandma. Because she was especially in isolation during
My grandma still won't
lockdown.
hug me.
Really? So I love hugging my grandma, and the fact we're able to do it again.
She's terrifying.
Really? Of you as a person?
Yeah, I don't know, because she loves all my other cousins.
That's a
I don't
person
think that's
issue.
COVID related.
Yeah. We have some beef to squash.
So I think just to wrap up, if you're still listening, congratulations. But obviously, while Sunday is World Mental Health Day, we all have mental health every single day. And if it ever comes a time that you feel that you're struggling, or a friend or a loved one is struggling, take a look at our Facebook page. We're going to put a post out with a link to, you know, helplines that you can go to and websites you can visit. And just reach out to people. It's really important to connect with each other and to be with people now that we can.
Yeah, and also as part of our work for World Mental Health Day, we have some stuff on our website where some people have shared stories about how their mental health was affected during COVID. This podcast will go up on there as well. So if you feel like sharing your story, if you feel like being a part of it, please get in touch. We would absolutely love to hear from you, anonymous or non-anonymous.
Yeah, I put up a piece of my art that I was talking about on the, was it a page?
Yeah.
On the page. So yeah, all those kind of things, those are good to share.
We just hope this helps like as many people, and yeah, we're here to support, and yeah, share all your stories.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for listening, and have a great day.
Perfect. And I will stop it now.